Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for joining me once again today. My name is General Confusion, and welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2. Specifically, welcome to Mortal Empires. So, this was supposed to be a High Elves video. I was going to be going into the High Elves next, and examining them and talking about how they work in the context of Warhammer 2. But Mortal Empires dropped, and I'm sorry, the temptation to play my beloved Ratmen against the Old World factions was just too tempting. So, here I am. The Elves will wait. The Elves are boring anyway. Who likes Elves? Ha! Lots of people like elves. I actually like elves. But anyway. So, I am playing Skaven against Bretonnia. Excuse me, which is a very interesting matchup because Bretonnia has a ton of things the Skaven should be pretty bad at dealing with. They have lots of fast cavalry, they have lots of pretty decent archers, and they have lots of flying units that cause terror. But, fortunately, the Skaven, while superficially weak to all of these things, actually do have a lot of countermeasures. So, my, the centerpiece of my army, the core of my strategy here, is 2 units of Warp Lightning Cannons backed up by 2 Storm Vermin Halberds. And we deployed on this, we ended up on this marsh map with lots of forests around, which is great for me because it's very bad for cavalry. So I have 1 Storm Vermin Halberd right there, 1 Storm Vermin Halberd hidden in the woods nearby. My leadership corps, made up of my Grey Seer of Ruin and 2 assassins, is right here. The assassins, of course, have both trophy heads and the Rivalhide Talisman for that delicious debuffing nonsense. And the Grey Seer is on his bell. He has Arcane Conduit, all his abilities. He has Crack's Call, Howling Warp Gale, Warp Lightning, and I've brought the dreaded 13th spell, as well as Unholy Clamor and the Free Scorch and all his special things. My infantry line is made up of mixed Skaven Slave Spears and Plague Monks, and it is all hidden. It's here in the woods, it can't be seen. I have 1 unit of Rat Ogres, because they do high AP damage, and I was hoping they could do some work against the cavalry, hidden in the woods, because giant frothing berserker mutated rats can hide in woods. And I have 1 unit of Poison Gutter Runners deployed far forward. Poison Gutter Runners have been nerfed somewhat. They lost some melee defense. They actually gained a little bit of weapon strength, I believe, a little bit of damage. And they lost a little bit of accuracy, and their snare net was debuffed, so it does not have an extra charge speed debuff, and it was dropped from 22% speed to 18% speed. So they're easier to catch, they're a little flimsier. Also, their physical resistance was dropped from 30% to 20%. So basically, they're more of a missile unit now. They're not quite the ninjas they used to be. They're still pretty ninja. They're still very, very good. But they're not like they used to be. So my opponent has brought a front line of peasant mobs. So basically, pretty much Skaven slaves. I mean, Skaven slaves are fairly comparable to peasant mobs. However, Skaven slaves are slightly more expensive, interestingly. My Skaven slave spears actually have more melee defense than his peasant mobs at the moment. So he's brought, it looks like 5 of them. He's got questing knights, 3 of them. So the heavy anti-infantry armor-piercing shock cavalry of Bretonnia. He has a flying goon squad of 2 Pegasus knights plus Luen Lioncoeur. He has 4, I'm sorry, not 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 units of peasant bowmen. So he's going heavy on the peasant bowmen. And he has a damsel of life on a horse with the Power Stone, Regrowth, and Earthblood. So only healing, plus Life Bloom. So basically, this is a heal bot. So he's got a heal bot, he's got a death squad, he's got some heavy, heavy damaging cavalry, he's got meat shields, and he's got lots of archers. So, as you can see, I've deployed sort of scattered a little bit. My front line is hidden in the woods. My cannons and Storm Vermin Halberds and leadership are visible, although the assassins are invisible. And I have these reinforcements lurking in the woods as well. My gutter runners are just kind of standing still. We're both sort of squaring off at the moment. My cannons are starting to advance because I was trying to get them in range to shoot at his cavalry, but the questing knights start pulling back immediately, so I'm going to move them over here onto this ridge in an effort to get a better sight line. From here, I can shoot at pretty much anything out in that open space. My hidden units in the woods are moving up, but remaining secret, as is my main line. I don't want him to know what I have. So some of his cavalry, his flying cavalry rather, his flying goon squad is coming over here into the woods. I'm pulling my gutter runners back in an effort to avoid them being spotted. They're being very, very cautious with the warp lightning cannons, as they should be. The gutter runners have been seen, but they go back into stealth pretty soon, so I'm not sure if he actually really noticed them, because you see they're hidden again already. So I'm pulling over in this direction. He wants these woods, let him have them. I cannot fire effectively through these woods, so basically I can't fight him in here very well. Only the gutter runners can fight his flying units in these woods. And of course if they land, the storm vermin, halberds, and rat ogres, but they're probably not going to land. So I'm pulling my cannons up over here, guarded by one unit of storm vermin. These storm vermin and rat ogres and gutter runners, well, the storm vermin and rat ogres are still hidden. The gutter runners have been spotted. He's swinging down through the woods. Now he's starting to see my flanking force, so I just went, alright, well, get a few cheeky shots, do a little bit of damage. The Pegasus Knights, incidentally, take quite a bit of damage from gutter runners. Look at that, that's fairly impressive. It's only a couple of volleys. And then these units are falling back. He didn't want to land and attack them just because they are powerful anti-large units. So I've moved my line up. We're still kind of posturing right here. He's got his flying cavalry over here in the woods, flying around, trying to see what's going on. Taken a little bit of damage, and he's lost a model for basically no return. Except he did take away some of my ammunition. I'm pulling my Grayseer back here because I'm thinking, oh, is he going to come after me? Is he going to come after me? Nope, not quite. His peasant mobs have advanced quite a ways, though. I'm content not to engage just yet. The Warp Lightning Cannons are going to try to get some cheeky shots at these Pegasus Knights, but it's not going to do a whole lot. Their Pegasus Knights are a little bit hard to hit. They do get a hit on Lewin. I wasn't even aiming at him. That's pretty cool. But he's now pressuring me with his line. His archers are starting to fire, so I went, alright, I gotta go in. Once the archers start shooting, that's it. They're doing massive damage to the Skaven slaves, but fortunately, they're only Skaven slaves. So the mainline engagement is going on. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm watching this. I'm watching this like a hawk, because I've got to get his flying cavalry if I have any chance here. This Warp Lightning Cannon is starting to fire, should be starting to fire at the Damsel, because I did not want that heal bot being around. Ooh, got a nice little hit on the archers there, but the Damsel is getting away. So my gutter runners are pushing forward, my rat ogres are pushing forward, these storm vermin halberds are pushing forward because I have more back here in reserve. My assassins he has not seen. The main line is going just fine. Despite the archer support, I've completely smashed through his peasant mobs on this side. These Skaven slave spears are going to be wiped out, but the plague monks are going to go on to great things. His peasant mobs are buckling all across the line. My gutter runners have been seen, but he's left his cav charge. He's waiting until I'm overcommitted, I think is what he's doing. He's waiting until these storm vermin halberd at least are tied up. So I'm still blasting away at his damsel of life. Here comes the cavalry moving in. The flying cavalry is still waiting for its time. My Skaven slave spears have routed, but my plague monks have gotten into the archers, dropping a cheeky little warp lightning right there. Oh, that's some good damage. Oh, that was tasty. I love warp lightning so much. 14 kills. As you see, warp lightning kills are now counted. Here comes the flying cavalry for an attack on the warp lightning cannons, but it's not going to work out for them because of Howling Warp Gale upgraded. So now his Pegasus Knights are just trapped in place. The Warp Lightning Cannons are going to start racking down fire. The Gutter Runners with poison are putting down fire. He's dropped an Earthblood on his Pegasus Knights, but the problem is Pegasus Knights lose whole models so easily. They're just still taking damage that they can't get back. These Pegasus Knights are now down to 12 models. These are also down to 12 models. I'm not targeting King Lewin yet because I want to get rid of the rest of the flying goon squad. Over here, peasant mobs are rallying. My infantry is getting into his archers, but I'm going to slow-mo a little bit here. But his questing knights have gotten into the infantry and wrecked it. The plague monks are basically gone. The Skaven slaves are largely gone. Questing knights taken very little damage. This is what they're really designed to do. Another good warp lightning nets me another 7 kills off his archers, which is nice. I'm sending in the rat ogres just to try to pressure the archers. Normally I would be using them against the cavalry, but at this point I was just looking at it going, I've got to get rid of those archers. I've just got to. The Pegasus Knights have been ruined by the Warp Lightning Cannons and the Gutter Runners. They are just fleeing at this point, desperately pulling back. And they're not actually breaking, but they are pulling back. Warp Lightning Cannons get a few parting shots off. Couple of good hits. Up here, as I said, my infantry is completely breaking, but it's starting to come back because Skaven have that quality, that their infantry just comes back and comes back and comes back. I've got a nicely powerful unit of Plague Monks right here. My Rat Ogres, for some reason, I think that bug where you lose your attack orders is still in place because they just stopped for a minute there, but then they get into this unit of Peasant Bowmen and do some pretty good work. They're triggering skirmish mode on all these archers is what they're doing, which is really nice, except for these ones. I think these ones have been manually stopped. So they're getting a little bit of work done. They are going to be put down pretty hard by the archers soon. But I've still got this whole pocket. I've still got Storm Vermin Halberds, Plague Monks, my Grey Seer, my Assassins. The Warp Lightning Cannons are still shooting at the retreating Flyers, which they shouldn't be doing. They've gotten some good hits on the Pegasus Knights. The Rat Ogres are now getting absolutely torn down. They've done some decent damage, not really enough to justify themselves, but they took the attention of those archers off the rest of my army and allowed me to kind of rally and regroup. I've got my Storm Vermin Halberds chasing these Questing Knights away, and now the artillery can fire at the Questing Knights, and Warp Lightning Cannons are fantastic at killing cavalry. So the Rat Ogres over here have gotten utterly ripped to shreds. The Flying Cavalry is going to come over and make sure they go off the map, so we're not going to see them again. Over here, my Skaven Slaves, a couple of them have rallied. These ones have shattered, unfortunately, but these ones have rallied, so that's nice. These Storm Vermin Halberds have gotten into a couple of peasant mobs and are racking up the kills for basically no cost. I've now moved away from the Warp Lightning Cannons because I want to tempt him back to attack them again. I've still got the Plague Monks, I've still got my 2 Assassins here, so if he attacks the Warp Lightning Cannons, the Assassins can really debuff his units to make sure they don't do much damage, and the Storm Vermin Halberds can jump on them. Meanwhile, my Gutter Runners are moving up to pressure the Archers, and I dropped the dreaded 13th spell onto these Archers right here, just because I wanted to use it, basically. I'm not sure this is the most efficient use of my magic, but by doing so, I caught 2 units of Archers in melee with a pretty powerful melee unit. The bug has been fixed, of course, so summoned units are no longer phasing through enemies and friends. But by doing that, I basically destroyed that unit, and I managed to get that unit running away. Lewin does dive on my Storm Vermin. I dropped a Howling Warp Gale on him, and I tried to target both cannons on him. It wasn't a terribly good angle. As you can see, there is a giant rock in the way. Did get a few shots off, but a few hits. Even so, the Storm Vermin Halberds are not going to do well, but they've done their job. That summon, they got 39 kills, they broke a couple units of archers, and these Gutter Runners have now gotten into these archers and broken them. They are about to get dive bombed, so Lewin is taking some damage. He is regenerating through a lot of it, which is unfortunate, and the Storm Vermin Halberds are now going to run, because they are just summons, and they're not very brave. They're rats. My other Storm Vermin Halberds are moving up, and I've still got this one unit back here to guard the artillery. Lewin did not take very much damage from that, so overall, not an efficient use of my resources there, but it was a good try. It was worth a shot. Over here, the Battle of the Crap continues. Utterly worthless infantry continues to fight each other. These Plague Monks were coming up to see if they could accomplish something, but they are now retreating because there's nothing to be accomplished. Lewin still just kind of peppering him down with the Warp Lightning Cannons, doing a little bit of damage as he goes. Those Warp Lightning Cannons are very, very good. I dropped my free Scorch over there and managed to break that unit of Peasant Bowmen, which is nice. Grey Seer's up to 40 kills. So, at this point, what I only just noticed in time was that all the Questing Knights have circled around behind me and are now trying to pass through the woods to get at the cannons. I did see it coming. So my whole army is now contracting back in this direction. I've still got this full health unit of Storm Vermin Halberds and my Assassins and the Plague Monks, plus some Skaven Slave Spears for whatever that's worth. I've also got this almost full, or more than half health unit of Storm Vermin Halberds, and some Gutter Runners left. So the cavalry is coming charging in. I've stopped my Storm Vermin Halberds in an effort to get them to brace, sent the Assassins in to ruin the charge. The Storm Vermin Halberds just ate that Questing Knight charge and took practically no damage. They dealt a little bit, not much, but possibly just enough. These Skaven Slave Spears sacrificed the body in order to defend the artillery, and a use of the Rival Hide Talisman has dropped these Questing Knights to melee attack 0, so they can't really do much damage at all. Over here, these Questing Knights got into my Plague Monks, but didn't accomplish much, actually. The Plague Monks acquitted themselves very, very well there. These Questing Knights have gotten kind of stuck because they're surrounded by so many units, and so they are now starting to waver off and there they go. Now they're routing. So they are going to get kind of dragged down by all the units pursuing them, because in the woods, they are a little bit slow, and they're poisoned. The Warp Lightning Cannons were pulling forward. They did get charged by the Pegasus Knights, but the Pegasus Knights at this point are so weak that this full-strength unit of Storm Vermin Halberds should be able to stop them. I didn't have enough magic at this point to get a Howling Warp Gale on them in time, but they're coming charging in. They just don't have enough models left to really do the damage. I dropped a Warp Lightning on top of them right here, just to see what damage I could do. I think I did as much damage to my own Warp Lightning Cannons as anything, but all of the actual cannons were out of the area of effect, so that's fine. Back here, the 2 remaining questing knights are kind of trying to circle around, get at me again. They're being pursued by the plague monks, the gutter runners, and one assassin is chasing down the last of those, plus my storm vermin halberds. I'm a little bit pulled out of position. This is open. But the cannons themselves are pretty well protected. I do have the storm vermin right here, and I have my Grey Seer and 1 assassin standing ready to defend. The archers have come back, and now they're raining fire on my storm vermin halberd. I just kind of have to take it. They're not armor-piercing, at least, so they're not doing a ton of damage, but the storm vermin halberds really can't afford to go chase them right now because I still have to deal with all this mess. Now, these cavalry got caught by my plague monks and my gutter runners. These ones got away, so they could launch one last charge. These ones are going to die. They can't get out of this fight. The archers are still pouring fire into the storm vermin halberd. I'm shooting at King Lewin as he comes in for a last desperate attempt. These Pegasus Knights are getting earth-blooded, and so they are not dying. Excuse me. And in comes Lewin for his charge. I dropped trophy heads on him, and I think he decided not to dive in with that trophy heads active. I'm blasting the Damsel of Life as hard as I can, just in an effort to get her off the field, because the last thing I need is more healing on these guys. The Pegasus Knights are now getting pulled down very, very, very slowly. These storm vermin halberds are just kind of standing there absorbing ammunition. They probably should have been fighting, but, you know. The last of the questing knights are coming in for their last charge. I've got some storm vermin halberds moving to intercept them. Now, at this point, I go, screw it. These ones gotta go chase those archers off. I have to get rid of them. The questing knights, oh, they almost managed to dodge the storm vermin. They do get caught up, though, and so now they're locked in melee with halberds, which is not where they want to be. The last of the Pegasus Knights are about to go. These storm vermin halberds are just getting whittled away as they charge. The warp lightning cannons have routed off the damsel, and she is shattered, so they're now going to start shifting their attention to the archers, and down comes Lewin for his last charge. I meant to drop he dropped Stand Your Ground on himself, and the questing knights have pulled through, managed to get to the fight. These storm vermin halberds are still cleaning up a couple back here, but they need to be moving over as quick as they can. I dropped a trophy heads on Lewin to keep him from doing too much damage while the assassins and the Grey Seer engage. He's not even targeting the cannons now, he's targeting the Grey Seer in an effort to kill him, but even with the Sword of Corone active to lower melee defense, his melee attack is down to 30 and his melee defense is down to 0, so as the Storm Vermin Halberd come in, he's going to start taking massive damage. Look at that drop. Meanwhile, over here, the Storm Vermin Halberds have charged through the archers. They've gotten into one unit. These peasant bowmen are still firing, but they're weak. The Pegasus Knights are trying to intercept the Storm Vermin Halberds, not having a whole lot of success. And meanwhile, back here, King Lewin is just getting torn apart. And he routs, and when Lewin routs, army losses kick in, and the Bretonnian army disintegrates. So, that was a fun one. I really enjoyed that. Excuse me, pardon me, I still have a cough. Obviously, my micro was not where it could have been, necessarily, but I felt really good about how that battle went, and specifically, I feel really good about the place the Skaven are in. Once again, it looks like the Skaven should be, with their low leadership, and their lack of air units, and all of that, they should be an army that's very, very vulnerable to flying goon squad shenanigans, and possibly, if he'd taken, like, Lewin and a couple of paladins, I would have been more vulnerable, but with the artillery, the Howling Warp Gale, and the debuffs from the assassins, the Skaven are actually very, very able to defend themselves from flying goon squads, and even from flying terror bombs. My infantry line more or less did what I needed it to do, and the MVPs of the battle were definitely the Grey Seer, the Lightning Cannons, and the Storm Vermin Halberds. Now, you know, definitely runner-up goes to the Gutter Runners. Even nerfed as they are, they're still a very effective unit, and these Gutter Runners got a lot of work done. They killed a whole bunch of Pegasus Knights early on, and they got hold of a bunch of archers later on, and did a lot of damage. Plus, they even got a piece of the Questing Knights, to be honest. That was good job, fellas. Y'all done good. Rat Ogres, I'm not sure why it shows a full health bar, because they most definitely did not have a full health bar when they routed off. The Rat Ogres I didn't get to use optimally, and they didn't get a whole lot of kills, but they did accomplish what I needed them to do, which was to push those archers back and keep them from absolutely mauling what was left of my army until it was too late. When the archers came in and started shooting at the Stormvermin halberds, my immediate thought was, oh crap, how am I going to deal with this? Because I can't move these guys away at the moment. They have to stay here to hold the cavalry off. But because the rat ogres had shoved them so far away in that initial engagement, I was able to kind of pull it back together and get rid of his other units before the archers could do critical damage. So, thank you very much to Parabellum for the match. You were a great sport. I really enjoyed the game. I think your build, honestly, was pretty solid. Like I said, maybe swap the Pegasus Knights out for Paladins. I'm not sure. Honestly, I haven't played a whole lot of Bretonnia, so I can't give great strategy advice for Bretonnia. Lots of archers seems like it's probably the way to go against Skaven. My front line was a good bit more powerful than yours, and even so, it got pretty well wrecked, all except for the one unit of Plague Monks that I held back for the end game. The Skaven Slaves, props to the Skaven Slaves. They did their job. Good job, fellas. Well done with the dying. So anyway, that's been the battle for tonight. I'll be showing lots and lots more of these in the future because, my gosh, this game got so much more fun as soon as Mortal Empires dropped. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked what you see, subscribe to the channel, and more will be coming your way on the regular. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next one.